Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the industry panel. And today we're going to be moving a little bit quick over each topic so that we can get through all of it. So just to summarize a little bit, industry is one of the important features of Eve, as you heard in the Eve keynote. It's one of the oldest systems in our game. And we had a deep look at the inner mechanics when we were looking into how to evolve this feature. We did extensive UX research to ensure that the overall user experience for any type of player, whether it's be new players or veteran players, would get something out of it. And we had specific goals to streamline use of core mechanics without losing interesting gameplay elements. That was a key factor for us. This was not dumbing the feature down. So the development itself will be split up in two main sections. For summer, we're going to focus on both mechanics and UI improvements to reprocessing, manufacturing, copying, research, ME and TE. And invention and reverse engineering will be done on the UI side for the summer. And then later this year, we will be doing the mechanics changes to invention and reverse engineering. And of course, later this year, we will be doing polish on everything based on feedback from both the CC and all the feedback from the forums after our blogs, as well as the release itself. So that's the schedule. But here we are to have a panel discussion to gather that feedback from you guys. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take all these different components and give 5 minutes for each and take questions from the audience on each of them. We have specific people that can address each of these. And we're going to take it in this order. It's going to be tough to try to keep to 5 minutes on each, but we're going to try. And if we can't, and if you have specific question that you couldn't get through in this panel, we have a roundtable right after where we will address those questions for you as well. So hopefully everyone can get their point across in these combined 2-hour sessions. So first off is reprocessing. I'm going to take a seat here and give each individual an opportunity to address these points and start the clock. So anyone that has any interesting things to talk about regarding these issues, just step up to the mic on the sides here. Go.
I like that. That's.
Wow, we made it very clear, I guess. Dev blogs. That's great.
So no one has any questions about reprocessing?
About the compression, no, that's later.
Okay. Something's happening.
The person walking.
So with the reprocessing changes, you're basically killing one sort of trade profession, which was to gather all kinds of modules and reprocess them for profit. Are you okay with that, or are you going to do anything to boost that profession again?
Okay, so the question was that with reprocessing changes, we are killing a specific profession that was to gather models and reprocess them for stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we are aware of the changes, and it's mainly affecting machine learning for you, I will assume? So just like...
I was mostly thinking about regional traders.
Mm. Yeah, we are aware of that, and that's a consequences we are expecting for this change. Yeah, but mainly like we want I'm losing words here. We wanted the profit coming from like actually miners and just being able to harvest the stuff directly from the source from asteroid belts instead of just being able to do it from the market.
Thanks.
Just to quickly, for the second part of what you said, do we want to do anything to buffer the future? We do want every module to have valuable uses besides just being reprocessed. So as we start fixing meta modules over time, hopefully that'll mean there's more opportunities to buy and then sell to actual people who will use it in other areas, and you might be able to get that profession back in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else, or can we move on to the next topic? That'll buy some time. Sweet.
All right. So, halfway through this one, and then we move to compression. So that's going to be which one of us?
Us still.
All right. Restarting timer.
I see movement. I see two movement.
Questions?
Oh, oh. Yeah.
So what are you going to do about the Rorqual? Because you've kind of killed it.
Yes, we are aware of that, and that's something that CCP Fuzzy mentioned last time. We want to be able to give the Rorqual a more of an in-field role instead of having just it sitting on a starbase and waiting to just compress stuff. We would like it to be more of like something you put in a belt and you have a mining operation around it without it being completely useless. Exact details we cannot give you right now because we are still looking at options, but it's very high on our priority list because we are aware we just like made it a lot less useful with the starbase compression array.
It sounds like that'll be a big challenge to get the risk reward right.
Yeah, but we'll see when we get there.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, there is also like it still does compress, although you can also do that with a Starbase module, and it still does provide the best mining gang links in the game. So there is still that usage of it in the meantime.
Are you going to be adjusting the reprocessing figures for compressed ore so it matches the Covenant's ratios that you can get with minimal compression on modules? Because right now you can, but only at 100% refine, which you won't be able to get. At best you can get, I think, about 24:1 at the moment, whereas the best with modules is about 32:1.
I'm not sure I understood the question. Sorry about that.
I think he's asking if the new compression ratios on the new compressed ore will be equivalent to the compression ratios on 425.
Gaze survey probes, actually.
Okay, still.
Yeah, the compression rates should be quite similar to the 425 millimeter railgun. Is that what you are talking about?
Right now, with the numbers that have been released,
yes,
they are kind of the same, but only if you get 100% refine, which you can't get. So
yes,
they
so
are
yes, they are
substantially
slightly
below.
less. I think they are around 23 instead of 26. Yeah, that's intended because you can select which kind of ore you want from the compressed ore. Then before you could not with the 425, so that's okay. For results.
Right now the best you can get is, I believe it's 24 with dense feldspar.
I don't have the numbers in mind, but that sounds about right.
And I'm pretty sure the best that you could get before was about 28 for feldspar alone. But
we're aware that it was decreasing the compression rate a little bit. We think it'll still be very competitive, though.
Okay.
Cool.
Will there be a different compression ratio between the Rorqual or the Starbase module, or are they compressing to the same rate?
They compress to the same.
And that rate is instant, by the way, if you're talking about the speed that it compresses. For both of them, they will compress instantly.
They're the same ratio, you get the same amount back, and it's just straight away, happens straight away. Yeah.
There's one guy over there.
The old unit of transport of minerals is titanium, and now the new unit will be compressed ore because it's smaller. Most of the Empire minerals get shipped to Lowsec and Nullsec for capital ships, so we need more haulage because the compression ratio is lowered a bit. But also there's an extra step because the miners have to compress the ore. Will you get Empire miners, an Orca that can compress ore as well, just like the Rorqual and Highsec, because it would make the process one step easier to go through. Now everyone needs to have a POS, they need to haul to POS, then compress, then haul to station. And you can do that during a mining hop if you could put an industrial core on an Orca. It would make things simpler and easier. And the Orca would also be a nice ganking target, so there is a trade-off. Isn't that an idea to make things easier?
It would definitely be powerful, but that's not always good.
Yeah, for now we want to leave the compression in Highsec with Starbase only, see how things go, and then possibly adapt with time. I mean, we need to be careful on what we are doing as well. I mean, we are changing a lot of stuff for summer. So let's take it one step by step on this one.
So you make it a slightly more complicated and longer process in the long run, and you know that.
Except we're adding steps, we're also taking away a bunch of steps of the actual manufacturing of those modules before. So it's not it's not that the compression of ore is an entirely like being added to the existing process. We're also, you don't no longer need to manufacture the compressed items.
Okay, but that doesn't include extra haulage because it's all in station, so it doesn't really add time and clicks.
Sure, but equally from the point of view of the miner, you can just sell your unrefined ore at the station and leave it to the guy who needs to do the compression to deal with all the hauling and the sale.
But that's still an extra step. Somebody has to pay for it one way or the other.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
just a suggestion. Take 2 orcas, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Do we have one more?
We have 2 more. We have more time because we had such a short time before.
Okay, if you're going to be mining in Lowsec, and I know there's only a few of us that do that right now, but if you're going to be mining in Lowsec, it used to be you could just like take your ore to a station, you know, refine it, put it into minerals, then it's easier to move around. Is there any thought of increasing, cargo capacity in some ships? Because right now I'm like looking at, when I'm mining, I'm like looking at having to move from a T2 ship to a T1 hauler to move that ore around if I want to sell it at a hub station. So is there any consideration about that?
Not right now, not for ships. For the star-based structures, however, we can cover that later. We are trying to improve the cargo a bit, but we'll see how things go for ships before we start tweaking the cargo capacity.
Yeah, because making 6 jumps through Lowsec in a T1 hauler isn't my idea of fun.
Sure.
I don't know, that sounds fun to me. Sweaty palms.
So currently, the opportunity cost for refining ore is mostly around whether you have the right skills or the right tax rates at the station that you're at. In the future, there's going to be a hidden opportunity cost that isn't evident in the UI or in the inherent gameplay, which is you can't compress it once you've refined it. Whereas currently you can compress it once you've refined it. Is there something that you're either going to add to the UI or to some other part of the game which will make that opportunity cost more evident?
I think to a certain degree it's just the opportunity cost to be visible on the markets. Like the price ratio of materials to ore is going to dictate which one is better to do. And if there's a shortage of ore for compression, I would expect the buy prices for ore to go up. And miners who are paying attention to that kind of thing will see, oh, actually I can make more money not refining this, I probably should do that instead. So.
And we are also making it easier to pay attention to it because the new refining UI does let you know the value, the general rough value on the market of what you're refining and what you get out of it. So the market will respond by just, people will be wanting to buy the ore so they can compress it, and that'll allow you to see, oh, wait a second, I'm be losing money if I can refine this at this time.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to move to the next topic, manufacturing. Anyone got anything on manufacturing? Who's on point with this?
That guy.
Ytterbium.
First off, are there going to be any adjustments to extra materials, or are they just going to be slammed straight into the base materials to be affected by ME?
So far, we are moving them as they are to the normal materials. We are making some slight adjustments sometimes, but it's nothing major. So, yeah.
Okay.
There was one more thing. We are increasing all of the materials once we move there up by 11%.
Yeah,
and that's because we've removed wastage. So all the materials will go up 11%, and then the skilling for material efficiency then brings that back down. So it's effectively the same numbers for manufacturing, but the listed numbers will be higher.
Okay, but the extra materials are going to be affected by ME at that point and go up reasonably dramatically, which is a major impact on T2 production when you're doing it from the blueprints. And, well, when you're doing from blueprint copies,
Yep.
if you were doing it from T2 BPO, that will be directly affected, so that's going to make a bigger skew with the numbers there. So that's definitely something you want to be considering.
Yeah, in particular actually about Invention, because negative ME means that we're going to multiply those extra materials up as well, so it's going to make the difference between BPOs and BPCs larger, essentially. So it is definitely a thing that I'm aware of, I think we're aware of.
Yeah. Just as a suggestion on something to possibly do, if you could split them, so you've got effectively a legacy T2 BPO and the new T2 from Invention, you can just adjust the figures more for that. So there's a bigger difference between them.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's something we have the capability to do.
It's just the new blueprint which generates the same thing.
Yeah, but we don't actually have the ability to do that.
Can we do that
That's
now?
probably not how we would do it, but there might be ways that we could adjust, like close that gap again. But I think we're just going to play that by ear after the market settles for a bit.
Yeah. Cool. Nobody else?
Manufacturing, guys.
Lovely.
It's building things.
Let's go to the fun stuff. Come on.
Spaceships.
All right. Starbases. Ooh.
From an orderly queue.
I was still manufacturing, actually.
Okay, that's fine.
So what it's on about was, I feel that these changes are going to make a rise in the price in the market for ships and stuff like that. But for mission runners, the secondary income was also refining and loot and stuff like that. And not loot, salvage. And those are going to drop now a bit because of the refining changes. And what I'm on about was mission runners used to make more money, and now it has already gone less in the past 5 years, I think. And if the market goes up, it's going to be even harder for the mission runners to make enough money to buy their ships. And most new players go into running missions for the first player experience. And is that what we want to make it even harder than it already is for the mission runners?
So I think part of it is that we would prefer to ensure that, and we're doing work right now with the MP stuff to get new players into a broader range of activities faster, so they're not just being kind of directed into missions only. I also think that what Fozzie was talking about with regard to module rebalancing, the loot that is losing value because of the refined changes should hopefully at least to some degree get balanced out the fact that once those modules become useful for more than just refining, they will regain some of their value because they're not just minerals anymore.
Oh, so there are also changes in that as well, yeah. So like to rebalance it a bit, to bounce it back.
Yeah, we're working on, we've got a plan that we showed a bit at the ship and module balancing presentation to rebalance, basically do module tier aside, the idea being to make the named modules competitive and useful and give some interesting choice there. And that'll hopefully increase the value a lot of mission loot for actual use, not just for like melting into scrap. And just another kind of way to look at the changes to the refining. Yes, it does decrease some secondary mission income, but it's also increasing the income from miners by meaning that they're going to be now, once again, like a larger percentage of the income in minerals. And that means that a new player that wants the option of either doing missions or mining will have a more viable choice there instead of it just being the obvious choice being missions.
Yeah, I missed the module rebalancing thing, so thanks.
Cool. We'd also like to see new players doing industry, which, you know, this is part of all of these changes, and we know that that's not an early path for people, you know, finishing tutorials and things. So, yeah, more professions other than just let's do missions.
Profession balancing a bit as well.
Yep.
Okay, cheers.
Starbases.
So,
yay.
Starbases. Okay.
Yeah.
So manufacturing guys, move on ahead of the other ones, and we'll finish that one.
Okay, thank you.
So that's you. All right.
The dev blog that talked about the reprocessing skill changes mentioned that I think the first skill that's rank 1 will give you maybe 5%, and then the next one is rank 3, and it gives you 3%. So it takes longer to train, and you get a lower return. And I think it's changed its name now, but the production efficiency skill, I saw it in a lot of guides for new players. Don't bother trying to manufacture for profit unless you train this to 5.
Yep.
Because otherwise, Do you think now that new players can come in, maybe within 1 or 2 weeks, they'll be able to buy a blueprint, have trained skills in that kind of time frame, and be able to build something at a profit?
That is a
and
key,
compete?
That's a key goal. That's a key goal of what we're doing. Yes, we absolutely want to make it so you don't. We got rid of that skill affecting wastage, so that's no longer a thing you have to train up. Right. One of the big drives is we need to make sure that people can get into industry and not be told by veterans you can't do anything for a month until you train this stuff. It's not helpful. So.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Starbases.
Starbases.
Yay.
About remote BPOs use case. I now build Tech2 drones. I have a BPO in station. I build at the POS. So I get 25% production efficiency because of the array, 20% because of my skills. So my total bonus is 40% less production time. The new situation will be that I can copy a Tech2 BPO at 75% efficiency. So I lose the 15% on 60%, so about 20% of my production. My cheapest Tech2 drone BPO, an Acolyte, now costs about 90 billion on the market. So I lose 80 billion on just a single cheapest Tech2 BPO. From those 18 billion, I can play E for 2 years. How do I get recompensated for that?
When we make changes to something that is providing value, we don't compensate people retroactively. It's something that we make the best changes for the game that we see. 2 things that'll make you pretty happy is one that there is some other aspects of the change that were actually just mentioned that make Tech2 BPOs a bit more competitive. In that the negative ME is going to be having more of an effect on what used to be extra materials.
Not on drones. Highest unit count is 4, so ME doesn't matter.
Yeah. The other thing is that we're actually making Acolytes good. So that BPO is actually going to be a whole lot better now.
To be honest, I don't really mind because I expect higher margins. But the other way around, Tech2 BPOs will become a problem. At some time they will have to be removed. What will be the heads up before you're going to do that? Because now the earn back time is about 10 years. And now I lost 20%, okay, maybe 20% another patch, but when will I lose the whole 100%? I'd like a real long heads up for that.
So I think we've been fairly consistently publicly of the opinion that we need to do something with Tech2 BPOs for quite a long time. I hope that's being taken into account in market pricing. I'm pretty sure we said this before, and if we haven't, we're saying it now, certainly. This current status quo is not ideal. We will revisit it at some point. We will try and give you as much warning as possible. We will try not to completely, everyone's going to stab me for saying this, but I don't think we're going to not completely just take it away and say, screw you. There's going to be some kind of transitional plan, but obviously part of the problem with them currently is the extreme amount of value they have, and that value is going to go down at some point in the future.
You could make Tech3 drones and Tech3 modules and stuff like that that make the price of Tech2 go down.
We could hand the blueprints to them out in the lottery as well, but we're not going to.
Good luck. I'll see what you'll do.
Thank you.
Other side here.
With the summer release, are we going to see a multiplier from the Starbase arrays, or is that not in this release but for a later one for the reduction in build cost multiplier?
Yeah. We are offering the multipliers to be for summer. For ME.
There's 3 as well. There's a material one, a time one, and a cost. There's you drop the NPC taxing.
Where are we at though on multiple structures?
It's the multiple structures that I'm interested in. Otherwise, I'll have a small tower with one array.
Yeah, we expect a lot of slimming down some of the structures. I think it's not always going to be the best solution now, and part of that will be when we get around to doing the POSs, which is, as you saw in the keynote last night, something we basically want to be doing next. We'll revisit where is the value in building up larger structures and how that affects industry and everything else that POSs can do. But yeah, I actually don't know what's going to fit in the schedule for summer for the multiple structures, but we've got that written down to.
Yeah, it's definitely got a line. We know it's an issue.
It's in the dev blog that you might do something for summer. That might be a bit firmer.
Yeah, well, that mic was as of last week, and it's not changed significantly in the last 5 or 6 days, unfortunately.
We've been busy making a conference.
Yes. We will let you know as when we have more information for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any plans long-term to break the dependency on moons?
Long term, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's a good POS, not POS industry discussion. So
yeah,
yeah. We'll talk about that later. Thanks.
I hope I didn't just miss it in the dev blog, but are you going to make changes to the cargo capacity of manufacturing arrays at POSes?
Yes.
Because now
looking at that.
I missed it.
Yeah, you didn't miss it. We haven't announced it yet.
No, it's not post something.
No, I think it's. We said in a comment in the
okay.
forum
I mean,
threads.
it's safe to say. I mean, we are looking at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have a look at one of the dev blog feedback. I think it's manufacturing one. We've started having some feedback on what structures you would like to see the cargo hold increased. So have a look, answer that one, and then you can discuss it.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of safe to say at the moment, like we have some idea or some numbers for that we're discussing with the CSM to make sure we're getting them right. And so we're talking to them a bit about it first, and then we'll keep getting feedback from you guys.
So there will be an increase in the cargo capacity.
We are planning an increase on the cargo capacity currently. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I was wondering about workforces and teams. How will they be affected when you have a system where there's no stations, NPC stations around, for instance, in Highsec or in Lowsec, and the prices on teams when you put up a post in there to manufacture things?
They'll be the same as the prices would elsewhere. Obviously, like they're not going to benefit from station price reductions in a Starbase if there's no stations present, but otherwise they work as normal. They're a system-wide resource, and you use them in the same way you wouldn't do it.
Okay, but teams are like system-wide.
Yes.
Yep. So how do you get a team in your system?
You just bid for it, and you go into the UI and you click on it. You type the system name you want to move to, and if there's no stations, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Hello. I would like to know what your plans are regarding the standing requirements, because now you move from the POSes, and in some talks, because I remember you were talking also about other mechanics requiring standing that will be maybe removed because you don't see the point. But my question was about the synergy between missioners and industrials, because, for example, there are some corporations which use missioning only to raise the standing in order to get services or bonuses from the factions.
Yeah, one of the reasons we removed the standings for anchoring Starbase is that we did not like forcing people to do missions, to do something industry-related. We didn't like the fact that corporations had to use weird edge case scenarios of like hiring someone with high standings before they could anchor a POS. We do not like to break social groups on such manner. Regarding standings in general, that's a very good question. We really need to have a look at exactly the whole picture with standings.
Okay, so there will be less benefits from industrial people to have high standings?
It really depends on what we want to do with standings as a whole. I mean, it's not.
But in the summer release, it'll be less value, yes, because you won't need it to anchor the start.
And in the future, potentially, if we swing that back into the direction, it will probably also require us to have ways that you can raise your standings by doing industry rather than by doing missions, because that would make a lot more sense, I think, in that context.
And a benefit that is based on activities that happen over time with all the members of your corp still in your corp, and not like some dodgy thing where you just swap people out and put pauses up and put everyone back, and it's almost like cheating. So yeah, we actually want to see a longer term benefit of maintaining good standings. Yeah.
Okay.
All your POS module, the cargo bays are all based on your corporate design. By removing the remote blueprint, are you going to be able to make that easier for Alliance? Because you have an Alliance option to open all your manufacturing at your POS that way, but it's virtually impossible to allow anybody from the Alliance to do it except remotely.
Yeah, there's going to be no Alliance access to industry. And I think the only use case was remote research on blueprints where you had no material inputs. So you'd have your blueprint somewhere in an inventory location that you can access, and then the Alliance members could research it using the structure. So because you cannot access the inventory in the POS, then therefore you can't do industry in that POS anymore. But we know that case is gone with the remote blueprint access.
You're next over here.
I'm going to preface my question by saying I think the reprocessing, compression, and changes are just very elegant, more than I could have ever hoped. My question is that with POSs being more useful now in Highsec, not just for research, but for manufacturing, you're going to see them everywhere and for more reasons, and people are going to be fighting over them, or at least hopefully. Any consideration to perhaps lowering the POS gunner skill to anchoring 4 so that more people can do it? And not just alts?
That's a good point.
Yep.
I'm noting it down.
So, like in general, we're very aware that POS defenses are ridiculously bad in a lot of ways right now. And yeah, that's one of them. The fact that missile batteries are less than useless is another one. We've been wanting to make some changes to that for a while. So I mean, I think that's a really good idea.
Yep. Sure.
Over here.
Morning. 2 questions, but I'll make it quick. First is laboratories. Given the changes, is there plans to revisit them when we have 3 basic labs? Is there a plan to bring in more faction options or more specialization options to the labs, or just break out the variety? Second question is more long-term. Given the massive prevalence of folks who are going to move their policies into high-sec space, is there concern that low-sec is suddenly going to become a little bit of a ghost town?
All right, regarding mobile apps, we are trying to make them a bit more different regarding what they do. In general, again, we started posting some feedback on one of the devlog threads and some changes on them. It's not very advertised, so yeah, we may want to have a feedback thread on the proper forum section to make that a bit more advertised.
Can I talk about Lowsec stuff? The thing, am I allowed to talk about that thing we've been talking
about?
No,
go ahead.
Okay, so I'll turn to this quickly. So Lowsec in particular, how can I compress this down? So it was brought to our attention actually by Min, I think, about a month ago that the reprocessing changes were going to have a massive adverse impact on capital construction in Lowsec in particular, which is an activity we really like because it's essentially the biggest thing that a empire industrialist can do reasonably. And having that kind of collapse due to the reprocessing differential is the thing we're unhappy with. So we are playing with the idea of a Lowsec only component assembly array with a big ME bonus. And I've kind of been waiting to bring this up in the thread for a while, and no one has asked anywhere on the forums that I could find what about Lowsec cap manufacturing. I'm very sad for taking this opportunity to say we're looking at this. We haven't figured out exactly how to do it, but it seems like it should be pretty straightforward.
I started at least 2 separate threads about it, but it's been generally ignored.
Okay, well, I didn't see them. I'm very sorry. But yeah, so it's the thing that your evil CSM nullsec overlords pointed out to us, and we were like, yes, that's the problem. We should probably fix it. We've had a plan in our back pocket for a while, and just figuring out when we have time to implement it. So hopefully that will alleviate at least some of the issues in Lowsec, and potentially also open up some new opportunities for T2 component manufacturing there as well, because it will probably cover that as well.
With the cost scaling as well, you know, people will want to be moving out to like places where manufacturing's done less. So high-sec busy systems will cost more and have smaller margins. So the original question on whether POSs will just be all like sucked in close to jitter, that's the scaling should help push them back out.
Mm-hmm. All right, on this side here.
Okay, with all the POSs in Highsec now, they will be going offline, and how do you remove them faster than current?
We are considering that as well, because it's a problem that also happening like in normal space with offline POSs. So yeah, we are looking at different options for that.
Very well, yes.
I was wondering about corporate level renting of the slots and the stuff in the POSs to members. Is there a way to charge them again, like in the old system where you could just charge per hour or per install cost? Or is that going to be gone?
Hopefully there'll be a way to set taxes.
Yeah, we'll be doing that for Outposts. We hadn't, let's write that down. Yeah, I mean, if you can set a tax rate that's similar to what you do in Outposts, then
basically,
you could collect
so as a corporate, you can keep manufacturing costs, charge them up so you can keep up the POS fuel.
Yep. Yeah, we'll look into that.
Cool.
Cool.
With the removal of the standings requirements for Highsec POSs, are you going to remove the requirement for star-based charters as well?
No, we like charters to stay in star like sync for now. I mean, we could have a look at the numbers, but do you have a good argument for removing them in general?
My only concern is the main source for charters is via LP, and that is predominantly coming from missions as the source for it.
That's the thing that you can trade on the market, though. So we're completely very happy with cross-profession trading happening. It's just when you actually have to go and do the other thing yourself, because there's no way to buy standards currently, and that's what that's a problem.
Yeah, like when we're talking about the standings problems for missioning, that's because you had to do missions. Here you have the option of doing missions yourself or doing anything that makes money and trading for money, which gives the players better choice.
So if the two of you can make it super quick, we can take questions from you two, and then we'll move on to the next point. Go ahead.
Yeah, with terms of modules, do you plan on doing any kind of look at the CPU and grid and how much power grid it's taking up? Maybe giving options for maybe dropping a module allows the industrials to maybe tailor more to get more grid, so you can put maybe another array on or something to that effect. I mean, the intensive refining array, that's kind of broken in the game right now. One of the reasons why it's broken is because it hogs up all the power grid on the POS.
That's a good point. I mean, I didn't look at.
If everyone will write this down, we'll have a look at it. I have something I haven't thought about that much.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends as well how far we can take the multiple structure thingy.
Yeah.
Because depending if we can do it or not, it will like screw.
Yeah.
I mean, I started having a look at that, but it's difficult without having the whole plan.
We'll make a spreadsheet.
Just a suggestion more than a question. With removal of offline POS, have them continue to cost charters when they're offline, and when they have no charters, they become free to shoot because someone's not paying their rent.
That's interesting. Yeah, keep in mind.
All right, so we're down to research.
Okay. Again, it's capital stuff. Yeah. Capital BPOs have had a rounding issue on their numbers since the word go for ME. You look at Revelation, for instance, it gets perfect build quality, but it still comes back as 2.2 wastage. How is that going to get reflected in your system? Because I'm really concerned that when it changes, I'm going to hit ME10 for all my BPOs when they come out the new change, but I'm still going to have module wastage that I'm not going to be able to fix.
So if you're at ME10, you are actually perfect. There is no wastage at that point.
So that is definitely, the rounding error is going to get fixed, basically.
Well, if you're at ME10, there is no possibility for better build from a blueprint. Like, unless we give fancy bonuses to things, there's no, like, I'm not entirely sure to answer the question because it's the same as currently, effectively. Like, the percentages are now percentages rather than weird ME values, but if it was actually perfect before, in the sense that you couldn't research it any further to make it any better, it will still be exactly the same afterwards.
Right, so we're not going to see an artificial inflation because of it?
I don't believe so, no. I mean, the same rounding issues will be there where if there's no further, if researching the final 2 or 3 levels doesn't gain you a single unit reduction in anything, it will still be at the same place where it can't get any better, but that's...
If I clarify numbers, would that help? A Revelation BPO, if my memory serves me correctly, hits perfect build quality at ME8.
Right.
But it still says 1.6% wastage.
Okay.
But we can't actually improve it any
so because
improve it further, but it doesn't make any change to the number.
Because we don't have wastage as a concept anymore, we will not be showing you 1.6% wastage because that is not a thing that exists. So it will simply be 8% reduction. And you can take it up to 10% reduction, but it will not gain any more unit reduction.
But the point was, at ME8, it does a jump, I'll get an ME10 efficient BPO when it change comes back.
I think you'll get an ME9 BPO. It won't make any difference. If it was perfect before, it's perfect after. Essentially, it comes down to.
Cheers.
Yes.
Kind of on the same theme, where you can like have an ME8, it's actually perfect.
Yep.
And then you don't have to go to ME10. Is there anything that you're going to put in for the new players in the tutorial that lets them know they don't have to go up to ME10 in order to get perfect?
So this is a thing we've in the first instance, we would prefer not to solve through a tutorial, but rather by communicating it through the UI. I'm not sure exactly where we are in the UI design in terms of letting you know what the saving on future research levels is, but something maybe we can have a look at in the medium term at least.
Yeah, at least if you drop a blueprint in and say we would like to research it one step more, then it would show you. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, we hadn't discussed whether we could show you the material inputs changing based on what it would do next. So, but that's a good idea, and we should definitely look at that.
Worth bearing in mind that with the changes to reprocessing, we now have the freedom, and we will be using the freedom to add ME bonuses to things on top of what the blueprint bonus can provide. So, if you're in a station with a 10% ME reduction, it's possible that the math on that changes.
Yeah,
something to think about.
Okay.
Will it be possible to have the UI simulate levels of ME that you do not have? Like, I buy a blueprint. I want to see what that blueprint will be like at ME5.
We got this on the forums as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good solution to what we just talked about, rather than like if I train this blueprint, like actually if I want to do this job and I had this ME, you could just adjust that and see it. With the new UI, you can ghost in like a blueprint you don't own, or a facility you're not at, and all these kind of things where you can just try and it will give you the results without actually having.
Would you have to find a blueprint, say, in a contract where someone has already researched it to that level, or would you just be able to adjust the numbers yourself?
Yeah, I think adjusting the numbers might be the nicest way to do that, and then you could just pick a type from the market and then change it and see what it does.
Cool, for putting me out of a job. I like that. The other one is copying blueprints. At the moment, the copy times are all over the place. There's a bunch of Tech 1 modules where it's far easier to copy than it is to manufacture. And that's kind of important when it comes to Tech 2 Invention.
Right.
Because if you increase the copy time, then Tech 2 Invention is just taken a really serious hit. And then you've got the issue with Tech 2 BPOs. Yeah, I believe it's been brought up on the thread. I can't remember if you've replied to it, with the Tier 3 Galenti outpost.
Yeah. So that aware of that, I'm going to find a way to deal with. The Tech 2 BPOs in general may end up having their copy times kick back up a bit to deal with a bunch of issues like this. We're still looking at those numbers. The copy times on Tech 1, I need to go and have another pass on the math and see exactly if it's working the way I think it is working. I'm actually, if memory serves, I was talking to someone internally who does this stuff a lot, and I don't know to what degree, and maybe you know on a case-by-case basis, but in a lot of cases he was saying that the actual copy time doesn't have that big an impact on the invention rate, because assuming that you're inventing to build, you're actually bottlenecked on the build slots anyway.
I do Tech 2 Invention. I have two characters I've got dedicated to copying, so that's 10 copy slots. And I can burn through all the blueprints they produce because I'm inventing on 3 characters. I can burn through all the blueprints they produce fairly quickly because I'm creating 20 per character, so we're talking a couple of hundred per day.
Sure.
And I can burn through that on 3 characters very, very quickly.
But you're not building all 3 characters?
I'm actually building off 6 characters.
Okay. But then, you could be, if in the case where that becomes an issue, surely you can just train the copying skills on a couple more characters and put those away.
That's one character who doesn't have slots that I'm using, because I've got 6 builders, 2 copyists, 3 inventors.
Cool. Yeah, we'll look at it.
All right.
What about the negative material efficiency for Tech 2 PPC invention, and how are you going to handle this with this system? Is there going to introduce a waste?
With sorry, say that last bit again?
For the Tech 2 PPC invention,
yes.
At the moment you get off with a negative material efficiency, and then you have a waste. And so will you be introducing the same system with that and negative material efficiency that will introduce a waste as well instead of reduction in the material requirements?
Yes. Negative ME will work as it does currently, just that instead of saying negative ME -4, it will say negative ME 50%, negative 50% or something, whatever the number is. Like it's the same, it's whatever the same reduction is on the math now. It's not changing how bad that is, or that the X material change does have an impact on that, but in and of itself, we're just going to be displaying it as a percentage rather than a arbitrary number, particularly because negative ME is not the same as positive ME, and the math is completely different. That's not the most intuitive thing in the world. So yeah, we're going to make that a lot clearer, hopefully, so you can actually just look at the blueprint and say, oh, negative 60%. That means I'm getting 6% more build requirements.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
All right, you guys have to make it super quick.
Hi, on your blueprints at the moment, you've got material efficiency research time and production efficiency research time, but you also have a copy research time. Can you remove that if you're not going to allow us to use it?
The copy research time is the copy time stat, isn't it?
No, because you've got a copy time and then you've got a copy research time.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
Was this in the mock-up in the blog?
Say again?
Is this currently on TQ or is it in the UI mock-ups?
No, this is currently on TQ.
Okay.
Yeah, like in the show info window.
Yeah.
We can fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll fix that.
That show info window is bad.
It's getting at my OCD.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll deal with it.
A previous question was about changing ME with a slider. In addition, there's going to be all kinds of new efficiency bonuses elsewhere, POS, teams,
You'd like to be able to
whatever.
arbitrarily punch in an ME bonus so you can see what it does.
So click check boxes, whatever, all those things. That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, Cameron can do that.
All right, we are running out of time, but does anyone want to bring a super quick question about landscaping, which is basically cost scaling?
We have negative 10 minutes.
They're going to yell at us so much. We're so over time.
Right.
Lock the doors. We won't let them.
Thanks. Yeah. Just asking, with the changes in cost scaling over time, at what rate are these costs going to change, dependent on activity in a system?
We are taking a 28-day moving average, so they will move slowly over time based on activity in the last 28 days.
Okay, that's great.
With the teams and what appears to be a bidding system, essentially you're auctioning to get the best team available based on the money you're going to spend. I have a concern certainly in the short to medium term that the larger building conglomerates out there are simply, and if you excuse my language, going to hoard the hell out of it, and everybody else who's of a certain size or smaller isn't going to be able to get access to the teams because we won't be able to outbid them, and it's going to push the little guy into a bigger hole.
Smaller organized groups are going to have less access to the best teams. That's absolutely true. The solution to that is to organize. Like, build volume in and around GT is way bigger than the build volume in any single nullsec system. You have the tools at your disposal to fix that problem.
So we have to outbid and blow our own profit margin to be able to get the teams.
No, you need to get everyone in this building in the system that you're building in to chip in a little bit, and you will completely destroy the nullsec cartels. You just got to organize.
But it's Eve. I'm not allowed to trust people.
Have fun.
The one nice thing about that actually is that you don't really have to trust people very much, because if you don't win the bid, you just get your money back.
Yeah.
So like, you don't lose anything. If you tell everyone, hey, everyone throw in 500 ISK or whatever, and not enough people do, it's not like you lose the ISK.
And we are looking into... Yeah, no, we're still working on this stuff, and we're looking into also telling you who did and didn't bid. Seems fun after the fact who screwed you. Sure.
All right, guys, we're going to have to take these extra questions on landscape in the roundtable. We're also going to have to take any more questions related to teams and UI in the roundtable.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.